So tonight we have, as I said, David McCoy. And David, do you want to just give us a 30-second bio?
Sure.
For starters?
I'm Dave McCoy. I'm Director of Citizen Action New Mexico. Our organization and several other groups have been working on contamination issues to the groundwater in Albuquerque that is occurring from Sandia National Laboratories and the which has a mixed waste landfill.
I think it's a nuclear dump. You know?
Well, it is. It's a hazardous and radioactive waste dump.
Yeah.
And then the Kirtland Air Force jet fuel spill, and Dwight Patterson here is with Zytec Incorporated, and he was the fellow who pulled up the first evidence that jet fuel was floating on the aquifer at 485 feet deep. He did that with his own invented equipment in 2006. So he's here tonight. Wow. And
I remember when that first hit the news for me, and it's pretty astounding. So would you like to introduce yourself, Dave?
Thank you, Alan.
Thanks for coming.
Yes. My name is Dwight Patterson. I'm the president of Zytec Instruments. I'm an environmental engineer by practice. I've been, for 24 years, I've been removing fuel oils from the groundwater tables around the nation. It's what I do. It's the only thing I've been involved in. And Albuquerque, Kirtland, I was invited out there in late 2006 to install a pumping system to prove out that the jet fuel that they found in the well in the Bullhead Park area actually continued to flow into the well. So we removed several hundred gallons there in 06, 07, and that provided everybody evidence not only that there is a plume in the drinking water supply of jet fuel, but also that the jet fuel had actually left the base at that time. They realized that as well. And we're just continuing over the last 2 years to try to assist in providing a solution for what is threatening Albuquerque's major water-producing wells.
And my name is Willard Hunter, and I've got an education in chemistry. I worked for a large chemical company for most of my career. Recently got a master's degree in political science and have been on the Citizen Action Board for probably 6 or 7 years, and have been very interested in the mixed waste dump at Sandia Labs. And unfortunately, this Kirtland fuel spill is preoccupying our time and attention now, and we're spending more time on that than we are on the Sandia Labs problem.
And when you refer to the Sandia Labs problem, you're talking about the mixed waste landfill,
I'm talking
the
about
nuclear dump.
It's not a landfill, it's a dump.
Yeah, I don't want to give it the distinction
There's
of
a
a
big
landfill.
difference between a landfill
It sounds
and
like
a
something
dump.
gets
It's a dump.
thought out.
Yeah,
Right.
actually it's a cesspool.
So it's a toxic soup.
It's a toxic mess.
Yep.
Well, with
What do
regards
we-
to the mixed waste landfill, there's going to be a public meeting at the Cesar Chavez Community Center on October 16th at 5:30 to 7:45, and we're asking as much of the public as can come to go to that meeting and raise two basic issues. One, that there needs to be a full-blown public hearing, which would mean evidence can be presented, there'll be a court reporter there, and that kind of thing. There's a lot of new evidence that's come to light over the last 7 years that's been covered up by the Environmental Protection Agency, by the New Mexico Environment Department, and we want to bring that evidence out into the open so that the public can know what's really been going on at the Mixed Waste Landfill. Mixed waste dump is really what it is, because things were thrown in unlined trenches and pits, and they were in plastic bags, cardboard boxes, steel drums. There's 119 steel drums of plutonium wastes that are inside the mixed waste landfill, that if they're left there, they'll be hazardous for hundreds of thousands of years to the residents of Albuquerque. And there's tons and tons of depleted uranium. There's all kinds of toxic chemicals, solvents.
It's a giant outhouse.
It's mixed waste, which is the most dangerous waste that
Because
there
they
is.
interact with each
Yeah,
other.
because it can interact, it can move much more quickly. And the Environment Department decided that it was going to allow Sandia to leave this waste under a dirt cover. Now, I know dogs that do a better job of taking care of their waste than the mixed waste landfill is being taken care of for Albuquerque. The monitoring, the decision to leave these wastes in place was based on a groundwater well monitoring network that the state and the federal agencies all knew was no good. They knew it within 2 years after it was put into place. They knew the wells were in the wrong location, that they had corroded screens, well screens on them. They were contaminated with bentonite clay that hides evidence of contamination. And so they might as well have been doing groundwater monitoring on the far side of the moon for the data that they got. It was worthless.
When I hear, I've heard you say this before, and it's very poignant, it's very strong. And what I conclude from what you said is that we're talking about criminal behavior. Okay, this is, I know you're not, well, you are a lawyer.
I am a lawyer.
Whoops, I can't use that one. No, you're talking about with malice aforethought.
Well,
that stuff happened and they didn't do anything about it until years after it started.
They still haven't done anything about it, Alan. And the part that is frightening about this is the level that they have gone to hide this evidence from the public. And along those lines, maybe you can pull up that document, that report. We asked for an investigation by the EPA Region 6 about the New Mexico Environment Department's incorrect data from these monitoring wells and that sort of thing. And the EPA didn't give us the report that they made, so we filed another complaint with the Office of Inspector General, and they did an investigation. And yeah, that's it. And if you look at just a little above the red print there, it says that Region 6 management of the EPA did not want the New Mexico Environment Department doing anything wrong. Therefore, management created a structure to ensure the appropriate outcome would result. Furthermore, as the writing and draft comments progressed to a final letter, the EPA team was pushed more and more to agree with the Environment Department's position. This staff member also stated that the team's initial evaluation would have changed the solution at the mixed waste landfill.
Well, what
In
they're
other
doing is
words,
they're
they-
lying by omission and actively lying about what happened.
It's not
Yeah.
commission.
Yeah,
Oh,
and furthermore, the Environment Department pushed the EPA Region 6 not to even question the past results or the viability, the test results from these monitoring wells. So this whole thing became a cover-up where they hid this. Now this Region 6 staff went on to agree with us about the defective condition of these monitoring wells. So the public really has been sold a bill of goods, and their only remaining opportunity will be this public meeting, which is coming up on October 16th, to go and speak out against this fraud that's being committed against them. Now, you mentioned, criminal conduct. Well, the law
It sounds
does.
criminal to me. They're lying to
The law provides criminal sanctions where there's knowing, willful conduct and providing, incorrect information and then signing on documents. Of course, when I mentioned just the fact of criminal sanctions, I was barred from even calling up and talking to anybody in the New Mexico Environment Department. I was barred from speaking with Secretary Curry of the Environment
They're
Department.
trying to shut you up. And so we're just talking about the nuclear dump right now, right? We haven't even gotten to the jet fuel spill, but they're parallels. I mean, certain parallels. Of course, it's a different locale and it's different in different forms, but it's the same thing. It's about the aquifer, right?
That's
And
correct.
Would you this thing that you've figured out how to do, or how the saving of our saving water in the city caused the aquifer to rise instead of continue down, and so that the water that we've been saving is sandwiching the spill.
Yes.
And do you want to talk about that? I think it's incredible that you were able to do that.
I can make a very brief comment about it. In late 2006, when I was invited out to remove some fuel oil from a well, CH2M Hill, an environmental consultant at the time, invited me out, and we measured the depth to the top of water in that well in late 2006, and it was 520 feet to water. If you look at the current reports, the water sampling reports that are on the Kirtland Air Force Base environmental website, that environmental part of the website, the last water monitoring was that the water now is at about 465-ish feet. That means it's up about 50 or so feet higher than it was in 2006.
What's higher? The water?
The top of water.
Okay.
So
I
the
got you.
basin, the Albuquerque Basin, is filling from the Abiquiu Reservoir, and it's is it John Stomp?
John Stomp.
Yeah, John Stomp's project is a great success, but they're driving themselves crazy because we just covered up 24 million gallons of jet fuel.
And is that
It's in the water now.
Is that a pretty accurate estimate of 24 million? I heard David refer to it as 24 Olympic-sized swimming pools full of jet fuel.
Well, no, it's more than that.
No, it's millions of gallons.
Millions of gallons. 24 million gallons.
That's
Originally, in 2000, they said it was 157,000 gallons.
That's really
By
chump change,
2008, the Air Force said, well, it's 1 million to 2 million. And then the Environment Department came out in 2010 and said it's 8 million. And then in 2012, we got this estimate of
Jeez.
24 million gallons. But do you think it's really limited to maybe only 24, or could it be more than that?
It's already a crazy number at 24 million. It's twice the size of the Exxon Valdez spill. But the craziness is there is an environmental department presentation on the Kirtland website that shows that the current fuel spill is actually occupying 55 acres of land under the city at this time.
Wow.
Now, I know that at the time in 2006 when I was there, that the thickness of the jet fuel in the wells at Bullhead Park,
At Bullhead Park, which is right next to the VA hospital.
yeah, it's right at the boundary.
Right.
We're right there at the boundary of the base, right near Randolph's Road.
Right.
Was about 3 to 4 feet of jet fuel on top of the water at that moment in time. And if you take 55 acres and you do simple math and multiply it by 3 feet thick, and I know it's tapering, I know that it's not 3 foot thick over the whole 55 acres because it does taper out to nothing at the edges.
Right. It's sort of like
So-
this, right?
But you're looking at somewhere, maybe another doubling factor because you're looking at 50 to 70 million gallons possible there because it's all, if you take that geometry, that simple geometry of that moment in time,
Right.
and the jet fuel hasn't been removed, so it's just there, but it's now smeared over a 50-foot area of water.
And as I understand it, it's moving north and moving west. Is that?
East, northeast. It's going right
Oh, I
towards.
thought it was going north and west.
No,
the
it's going-
jet fuel.
Sorry, it's going northeast.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Towards
Right.
the mountain.
Right towards Albuquerque's 5 most productive municipal wells. that
That's with
supply
the water that we drink.
millions of gallons of drinking water to this city.
Did you have something else you wanted?
What's happening right now that's paramount is that as of about 3 weeks ago, the Air Force completed 2 more monitoring wells that are out ahead of this migrating plume of jet fuel and contaminated water with EDB. There's 2 plumes out there running towards the Ridgecrest wells.
What's EDB?
What's EDB?
Well,
Ethylene
it's ethylene dibromide, and to give you an idea of how toxic it is, if you had a half teaspoon of this stuff, half teaspoon could contaminate about 9 million gallons of water, and in every
9 million?
9 million, and in every gallon of aviation gas, there was a half teaspoon of ethylene dibromide, and so there were millions of gallons of aviation gas times millions of gallons potentially to be contaminated. So this stuff is very dangerous, carcinogenic.
And it hasn't arrived yet it hasn't contaminated the wells, but it's on the brink of that.
We don't know if it's contaminated the wells because
They're not testing
those aren't
properly.
Yeah, they're not monitoring wells. What they are is wells with 800-foot long screens.
Did you want to jump in here?
Yeah, let's take a look at that last slide. Yeah, this is a simple slide I put together to try to show you what the situation is.
Wow.
The Curlin fuel spill is equal to about 1,640 gallons of jet fuel and aviation gas every day for roughly 40 years.
Wow.
And you can, 1,640 gallons. So that's not a leak. It's a gusher. And you can see on here where I've got the surface, and then the fuel was actually stored below ground in the fuel depot. Aviation gas, which is used with prop airplanes, and jet fuel, which is used as with jets and is primarily kerosene. And as the arrow shows here, this spill is equal to the loss of 29,000 gallon tank car, which is the way this kind of fuel is transported each and every 18 days. So what it says
For 40
is that
years?
for 40 years,
Damn.
one tank car every 18 days. What that means is the accountants were not paying attention. They were losing this fuel, and they claim that nobody noticed. And so let's take a look at the rest of the chart.
Do you believe that?
Well, that's a subject for debate. I'm still looking for the evidence to show that wasn't the case. Okay, so on the left you can see I've got the Vado zone, which is the area between the surface and the top of the aquifer, and that's something over 500 feet. And this is spilled over 40 years, so there is fuel probably still in the ground that's still moving down. So you can see in the bottom of the slide the aquifer, and I've got a kind of a curly blue line because this is not a neat surface. It's very complicated geologically, and I'm not an expert on that, but we do have people that know what that actually looks like. And then floating above, as Dwight was saying, is this liquid fuel layer, and that's a mixture of kerosene, which includes benzene, toluene, xylene, ethylbenzene, and then the components and that's from kerosene. And then you've got the components from the aviation gas, which includes things like tetraethyl lead. Now, in the aquifer, the ethylene dibromide selectively moves from the aviation gas into the water. And so we have this ethylene dibromide that was talked about just a moment earlier. And all of these, as my skulls show, are extremely toxic. And the ethylene dibromide Dave was describing, but the maximum contamination level, the MCL of ethylene dibromide, is 50 parts per trillion. And you can think about that.
50 parts per
50 parts per trillion of water. And the way you can think about that, where I worked, they talked about parts per billion, and they said it was equal to, a part per billion was equal to 1 drop of vermouth in a large swimming pool of gin, which would be a